First of all, I'd just like to say thank you to Pastor Frank for inviting me here tonight to give my testimony, and he also wants me to sing, so there you go. The reason for this piece of paper is to save you from being here till tomorrow morning. I've got a tendency to wander when I start talking, and I thought, no, put the main points down and stick to them. So I'm going to try to do that. I was born in 1946, and from an early age, music has played a major part in my life. In fact, since hearing Little Richard sing Lucille, many of you have never heard of him or the song. You're probably too young. But from that moment on, I just loved music. Mostly rock and roll. And never a big one for the classics, but I appreciate them just the same. Early life was much like anybody else, really. School, a little bit of football, a little bit of gymnastics, and then work. This is where it gets a bit strange for most of you, because my weekly wage was £1.10, which is about, what's that in today's money? £1.50, isn't it, roughly? That was my weekly wage. And all of my friends that left school at the same time, they were on at least £6 or £7 a week. So when I was asked, you know, do you want to come to the cinema? It was like, oh, can't really afford it. Anyway, in my teens, still interested in music, I went to this youth club, and they had a band, or a group as they called them then, at this youth club rehearsing, and I thought, you know, this could be fun. And I went to see them at a school, I suppose you call it dance in those days, I don't know what it wasn't, a disco. And their drummer, first of all, their drummer was ill through drinking a few brown ales too many. And they asked if anybody played drums, and a friend of mine said, well, you know, I do. So he went up and he just sat there and bashed away. And then the singer in this group decided he wanted to take his girlfriend home. In the middle of the show, this was, you know, because she had to be in at a certain time. And they said, does anybody sing? And this guy playing the drums said, oh, yeah, Bob does. Well, I'd only sung twice. Once at a Saturday morning cinema thing where I sang Al McCogan's Sugar Time to an out-of-tune guitar. And again at a Boy Scout concert when I sang Buddy Holly's Oh Boy. And I only knew 2 songs other than that. One was a Jerry Lee Lewis song, and I can't remember both twice. The only reason I sang them twice is because they said that was good, can you do it again? So, yeah, okay. So anyway, I joined the group eventually, and most of the stuff we sang was rock and roll. From that period, which was very early 60s. And then, of course, it moved into soul music. Did that. And I used to spend time on a weekend at the local record store in a shopping area near me. Not buying anything, but just listening to what other people were buying, because I knew that if a certain song was being purchased by 5 or 6, because that was going to be a hit record and I need to know about it. Well, after a couple of months of visits to this record store, the guy behind the counter obviously saw me in there every week and not buying anything, and he just said to me, you know, do you like blues? And I said, oh yeah. I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. But I said yes to get out of any trouble, and he said, do you want to have a listen to this? This is brand new, latest record by this guy. And so I went over to the wall, and they had these little tin shell things on the wall that you stuck your head in and listened to the record. And he played this record, and this guy was singing and playing harmonica, and I thought, oh, it's quite good, quite like this. And he said, you like that? And I said, yeah, it's good. He said, he's 63 years old. I said, what? He said, that guy's 63 years old, and the light belt, man, it's 63. I could be doing that when I'm 63. I wouldn't have to wear the, you know, the tight trousers and all the rest of it. So that's how I started, you know, listening to blues. With blues, you know, I had to learn differently. I didn't play anything then. It was just, well, I only play a little bit now, but I didn't play anything then. But I did buy a harmonica and try to learn that, and I had to learn lyrics and things like that, and how to sing this particular music, and more importantly, how to play the harmonica. Now, a lot of the guys that sang blues that I was aware of liked a tipple or two. Well, I didn't drink, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to get around this somehow. If I'm going to sing blues, I'm going to have to learn how to drink. You know, I mean, it's true, you know, it sounds a bit weird, but it's true. So I sat indoors. I bought, that day, by the way, I bought that record, and I bought an album by the same guy. And when I say album, that was the big things, it had two sides. And I bought those, and I went home, realising that I didn't even have a record deck. It was just a way of escaping this guy's attention next time I was in the store, you know. Anyway, I eventually got a record player, and I went out and I bought myself a little bottle of scotch, like that. Only a little one, because I didn't drink, and you know, this was test. I did smoke though, and I sat down, I put this music on, cigarette after cigarette after cigarette, plucking up courage to drink this drink that I poured into a glass. So anyway, came to the stage and I just picked it up and, yep, here we go then. Wallop. Now, for somebody that doesn't drink, to knock back a scotch like that is quite dodgy, really. And when I actually came to, the record sort of... the cigarette had burnt down in the ashtray. That was it. So that was on my start onto singing blues, and you know, I wasn't an alcoholic by any stretch of the imagination, but I did enjoy a drink. And at one stage, well, 2 or 3 years later, I suppose, I was working quite a lot, thankfully, and music-wise, not during the day. I used to spend my days, you know, like, I would make my sandwiches and I would get out and go the direction to work, and then detour, go back to the agency and sit there all day waiting for the phone to ring and somebody to say, have you got a band that plays blues? And, yes, we can do it. And that was it. Anyway, a little while into this, my wife actually said to me, well, you know, this is getting too much. It's music or me. I picked up the guitar case and started to move. I was pretty selfish. She stopped me, thankfully, from leaving. A lot of my friends, some of them are no longer with us, and some of them are in a pretty bad way with drugs and alcohol now. Travelled and did tours and things in Germany and Holland during the 60s. I never did. Nobody ever asked me. And then during the 90s, I travelled more around the world singing and playing than what I have done since I started. One of these occasions of travelling, actually let's get to my son first, because that came first. I was actually playing at a place in Salisbury, not far away from me, but they'd arranged accommodation for the night. And after the show, I said to the other guy that I was working with in the band, I'm just going to drive home. And thankfully I did, because when I got back home, the front door was open. I walked in and there's 4 or 5 neighbours sat in there. And I'm wondering what's going on. And they said, you're needed at the hospital. You know, your son, our eldest son, had jumped off the top of a multi-storey car park. And we don't know to this day whether he was, whether his drink had been, dabbled with, or whether it was just something that he did, not realising what he was doing at the time, when he leapt up off the roof and bonnet of a car and then straight over this wall, which was about an 80-foot drop to the pavement below. He did quite a lot of damage to his body. And what I am able to say today, I'm able to thank God today that He saved him. Not only saved him from early death, but He saved him as well because he became a Christian not long ago, and he's got baptised, and he's a born-again believer. Yeah. So we're very thankful for that. We're thankful that he survived as well.